Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Sarcastic Barman and welcome to my channel. We got an odd one tonight. A video I never thought I'd actually cover because of its downright stupidity. The only problem is I've seen it shared at least 3 times on Facebook in the last month and I'm like, oh God, do people still watch this shit? Oh, prepare yourselves. Back away from the screen. Put on some other mitts and pour yourself a beer. It's Eric Dubay's 200 Proofs.
200 Proofs Earth is Not a Spinning Ball by Eric Dubay.
The first question's going to be, how many are repeats? Because I've seen the Drunk Monkeys videos on these, and yeah, it's definitely not 200 individual separate things. There's definitely a couple of repeats in there, and by a couple I mean a lot.
1. The horizon always appears perfectly flat 360 degrees around the observer regardless of altitude. All amateur balloon, rocket, plane, and drone footage show a completely flat horizon over 20 plus miles high. Only NASA and other government space agencies show curvature in their fake CGI photos and videos.
Well, 2 things to point out there. 1, they don't. There are videos that show curve that have gone high enough to see it. 2, you have to go high to see the curve. It's not just NASA and other space agency governments that show it. Jesus Christ, you are useless. Mage, down below.
2. The horizon always rises to the eye level of the observer as altitude is gained, so you never have to look down to see it. If Earth were in fact a globe, no matter how large, as you ascended, the horizon would stay fixed and the observer would have to tilt looking down further and further to see it.
Except it does fall, and there's a plethora of videos and images showing it fall. I mean, you have to take into consideration that we are really, really, really small, and the Earth is really, really big, so it doesn't fall by much, but the fact it falls at all tells you something.
3. The natural physics of water is to find and maintain its level. If Earth were a giant sphere tilted, wobbling, and hurtling through infinite space, then truly flat, consistently level surfaces would not exist here. But since Earth is in fact an extended flat plane, this fundamental physical property of fluids finding and remaining level is consistent with experience and common sense.
Yeah, water finds its level as best as possible, depending on the effects being acted upon it. Hence why we never ever see large bodies of water flat, because there are forces acting upon it. I mean, tides would be really fucking weird if water was just flat all the time, because you'd have giant steps of water coming at you. Waves would be a bit weird as well. Small things of water, yes, but then there are small differences there as well. Your meniscus and demiscus and things like that, depending on how small you get. Forces acting on the water. Just basically debate, when do you ever see large bodies of water perfectly flat? That'll be never.
4. Rivers run down to sea level, finding the easiest course, north, south, east, west, and all other intermediary directions over the Earth at the same time. If Earth were truly a spinning ball, then many of these rivers would be impossibly flowing uphill. For example, the Mississippi in its 3,000 miles would have to ascend 11 miles before reaching the Gulf of Mexico.
No, you've got to be trolling at this point. There's no way you really think that water flowing around a ball is the same as going up a hill. The idea of going up a hill would mean it's getting further away from the point of gravity and not being attracted towards it. So, no. Your brain cannot be that daft that you can't think in 3-dimensional terms like that. You really can't. You've managed to make a YouTube video. You've got to have more than 2.5 brain cells. I think you need 1 brain cell to think in 3D terms.
5. One portion of the Nile River flows for 1,000 miles with a fall of only 1 foot. Parts of the West African Congo, according to the supposed inclination and movement of the ball Earth, would be sometimes running uphill and sometimes down. This would also be the case for the Parana, Paraguay, and other long rivers.
Isn't this you trying to make the same point as you just made and failed completely on? I think it is. Now, the water's flowing downhill. That's how water flows. I'm not sure where you're getting the Nile only goes down by 1 foot over 1,000 miles? Or is that just your simple misunderstanding of how gravity in a ball works with regards to the flow of water? Oh, so we're only on like number 3 or something. There's like 200 of these. Fuck my life.
6. If Earth were a ball 25,000 miles in circumference, as NASA and modern astronomy claim, spherical trigonometry dictates the surface of all standing water must curve downward an easily measurable 8 inches per mile, multiplied by the square of the distance. This means, along a 6-mile channel of standing water, the Earth would dip 6 feet on either end from the central peak. Every time such experiments have been conducted, however, standing water has proven to be perfectly level.
Now, it's not exactly 8 inches per mile squared, is it? But we'll let you off because it's such a short distance at present. But no, it hasn't been found that they're perfectly level. Well, level, yes, flat, no. But no. And if you're going to say, oh, the Bedford Levels experiment, no. They've been shown to be fucking stupid. But we're not going to expect any flat earther to actually do any proper research into this matter and say, no, you are lying, you bad, bad man, you, I don't like you.
7. Surveyors, engineers, and architects are never required to factor the supposed curvature of the Earth into their projects. Canals, railways, bridges, and tunnels, for example, are always cut and laid horizontally, often over hundreds of miles without any allowance for curvature.
Now, the first question would have to be, how big a project would you actually need to be working on to take curvature into account? If it's a road, you're not really going to need to, because you're not connecting 2 areas of massive curvature difference between each other. And most bridges you see are small sections of bridges. I love it when they post pictures like, look, this bridge is 10 miles long. No, that bridge is made up of lots of segments of bridges, so it's not really the same thing that you're talking about here, is it? Just a fail again. And yet we've had architects and fucking surveyors come out on other channels and say, well, yeah, for a big project like XYZ Bridge, we did have to take in some curvature to account. One, because of the difference between the 2 towers, which made the difference in the cable slightly different, but for tensioning wise, we needed to know this shit. Oh, Dubai.
8. The Suez Canal, connecting the Mediterranean with the Red Sea, is 100 miles long without any locks, making the water an uninterrupted continuation of the 2 seas. When constructed, the Earth's supposed curvature was not taken into account. It was dug along a horizontal datum line, 26 feet below sea level, passing through several lakes from one sea to the other, with the datum line and the water's surface running perfectly parallel over the 100 miles.
Is that you not understanding spheres and water and gravity again? If it was all dug 26 foot below sea level, the sea level's curved to start with. I mean, come on, you should be able to do better than this.
9. Engineer W. Winkler was published in the Earth Review regarding the Earth's supposed curvature, stating, "As an engineer of many years' standing, I saw that this absurd allowance is only permitted in school books. No engineer would dream of allowing anything of the kind. I have projected many miles of railways and many more of canals, and the allowance has not even been thought of, much less allowed for. This allowance for curvature means this, that it is 8 inches for the first mile of a canal and increasing at the ratio by the square of the distance in miles. Thus a small navigable canal for boats, say 30 miles long, will have, by the above rule, an allowance for curvature of 600 feet. Think of that, and then please credit engineers as not being quite such fools. Nothing of the sort is allowed. We no more think of allowing 600 feet for a line of 30 miles of railway or canal than of wasting our time trying to square the circle."
Now I'm definitely sure we're starting to repeat ourselves, but I could be wrong. And who the hell is W. Winkler? I can't find him at all. I really can't. This is beyond a joke. And then you have to ask the most important thing of the night. Why would they? 8 inches over a mile, the way you say it sounds like, oh, this huge amount. When are you ever going to have 1 mile long anything? Whether it be a piece of metal or solid single piece of pipe. And you're talking about what? That sort of much? There's something like that? Over an entire goddamn mile. No. Why would they? Fuck my life, dude.
10. The London and Northwestern Railway forms a straight line 180 miles long between London and Liverpool. The railroad's highest point midway at Birmingham Station is only 240 feet above sea level. If the world were actually a globe, however, curving 8 inches per mile squared, the 180-mile stretch of rail would form an arc with the center point at Birmingham raised over a mile, a full 5,400 feet above London and Liverpool.
No, it wouldn't. Just because it's so far away doesn't mean that on the ball like that is a mile higher than that, because it's not. It's the same distance from the centre of Earth. It's on a... What drugs were you taking when you came up with this? Or did you just ask a 5-year-old to go, hey, look at this ball, do you think that's higher than that? Well, yeah, I'm 5, I don't understand. You're a knob.
11. A surveyor and engineer of 30 years published in the Birmingham Weekly Mercury stated, I am thoroughly acquainted with the theory and practice of civil engineering. However bigoted some of our professors may be in the theory of surveying, according to the prescribed rules, yet it is well known amongst us that such theoretical measurements are incapable of any practical illustration. All our locomotives are designed to run on what may be regarded as true levels or flats. There are, of course, partial inclines or gradients here and there, but they are always accurately defined and must be carefully traversed. But anything approaching to 8 inches in the mile, increasing as the square of the distance, could not be worked by any engine that was ever yet constructed. Taking one station with another, all over England and Scotland, it may be stated that all the platforms are on the same relative level. The distance between eastern and western coasts of England may be set down as 300 miles. If the prescribed curvature was indeed as represented, the central stations at Rugby or Warwick ought to be close upon 3 miles higher than a cord drawn from the two extremities. If such was the case, there is not a driver or stoker within the kingdom that would be found to take charge of the train. We can only laugh at those of your readers who seriously give us credit for such venturesome exploits as running trains round spherical curves. Horizontal curves on levels are dangerous enough. Vertical curves would be 1,000 times worse, and with our rolling stock constructed as at present, physically impossible.
That was one of the biggest loads of twat-waffling madness I think I've ever heard. The fuck are you on about? The station at Rugby would be 3 miles higher. No, it wouldn't. It's still on the surface of Earth, you fucking twat-waffle. It's not at the top of a hill or something like that. This, my little dog ball, could be Earth. Just because you've got a train station here, and for extreme sakes I can't show bloody 150 miles apart on this because it's so small, we'll go here, there's your other station. There is not a difference in height between those two stations because it's all the surface of Earth. Moving round Earth doesn't change your height. Going away from the centre of Earth and above sea level and things like that, that is what changes your height, you fucking numpty.
12. The Manchester Ship Canal Company published in the Earth Review stated, it is customary in railway and canal constructions for all levels to be referred to a datum which is nominally horizontal and is so shown on all sections. It is not the practice in laying out public works to make allowances for the curvature of the earth.
Is this not the same sort of points you've made previously? We're only on 13, and I'm sure you repeat yourself about 4 times already. Jesus Christ, this should be the 2 proofs we're out to Dubai. 1 is, I'm stupid. 2 is, I don't understand balls. Well, I suppose you're both relatively stupid. Anyway, no, and I can't find that quote fucking anywhere apart on flat earth fucking madness shit. Just no. What the fuck? The very slight curve needed to be accounted for just doesn't get accounted for because it's a very slight fucking curve. And you're building from bit to bit. Fuck. Just fuck no. Fuck and no.
13. In a 19th century French experiment by MMBO and Arago, a powerful lamp with good reflectors was placed on the summit of Desierto Las Palmas in Spain and able to be seen all the way from Capri on the island of Ibiza. Since the elevation of the 2 points were identical and the distance between covered nearly 100 miles, if the Earth were a ball 25,000 miles in circumference, the light should have been more than 6,600 feet, a mile and a quarter, below the line of sight.
You knob-jerking liar. That's literally all you are at this point. There is no way those two lamps or reflectors or anything were at the same height. The highest point on Ibiza is 475 metres, and the point which you're talking about in Spain is 729 metres. So, no. You lying little cockwomble. And your maths still wouldn't even work out even if they had been. Fuck my life. You are a joke. Absolute joke. Any basic fact-checking on that point would go, that's not right because those points aren't the same height to start with. But you're that much of a knob jockey you didn't even bother to check.
14. The Lieutenant Colonel Portlock experiment used oxyhydrogen Drummond's lights and heliostats to reflect the sun's rays across stations set up across 108 miles of St. George's Channel. If the Earth were actually a ball 25,000 miles in circumference, Portlock's light should have remained hidden under a mile and a half of curvature.
And another point that I don't think Dumbay bothered to really check out. Now, here we have, for God's sake, nice little map. That's the area that this is actually looking over. So we had to go and look at more of Mr. Rowbottom's crap to find the exact things, because he doesn't list them. But it's a mountain Kilpare, south of Dublin, 2,434 feet, if I remember correctly from just looking. I probably forgot. And looking over to South Wales, to a range of hills and mountains that are high enough, shall we say. All it's got to be is over 1,432 feet for it to work with standard normal trigonometry to look over. We've got a few points over 1,500 and the highest point is 1,700. It works. With all the things you'll want to moan about, Mr. Dumbay, it works. But again, I'm sure this is like your last point and just like, no, it's not allowed to work. But at least this time we have points that are the same height or work with the height that is actually there. Not you and your made up, yes, they're both the same heights, but one was at the top and one wasn't. That's not how shit works.
15. If the Earth were truly a sphere 25,000 miles in circumference, airplane pilots would have to constantly correct their altitudes downwards so as to not fly straight off into outer space. A pilot wishing to simply maintain their altitude at a typical cruising speed of 500 miles per hour would have to constantly dip their nose downwards and descend 2,777 feet, over half a mile, every minute. Otherwise, without compensation, in 1 hour's time, the pilot would find themselves 31.5 miles higher than expected.
Now, a couple of silly points with this, and just the level of stupidity. One, do you think planes will fly perfectly level with no one controlling them at all? I mean, wind, air pockets, pressure, currents and things like that are going to jostle about the plane anyway. So are they going to notice the probably that much they'd have to have the nose tilted down to remain at level flight? Probably not. Not with everything else that's been going on. Secondly, the autopilot probably takes care of most of it, so no one's going to notice at all. And then I want to come back to your trains before, and how the trains would have to be going upwards constantly. If one station was here and one station was there, that's uphill, and yeah. So why in your world would the plane suddenly need to dip down to go from there to there? Do you not understand your own twisted craziness and you're just thinking, yes, if it's going from there to there, it must dip down when it's flying, but if it's a train, it's going up, because I'm a moron. I think 15 of these is enough for one night. I really do, because I don't want to do any more. I can't be asked. I really can't. If you want me to do more, leave the comments down below. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Thank you to my members, Patreons, and everything like that. And we shall see you all on the next video. Good night.